Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm Lori and I'm here with my brother, Leroy. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Lori?
It takes a certain level of discipline to like hold back the urge to make a funny. Today I just don't have it. So when I was saying this is my brother, my first thought was who I used to remind myself rhymes with other, but now I just have more gratitude for you, and I'm happy you're my brother. When we were very young, ages ago.
So let's dig right in.
Let's get right to it. So, last time we were talking about having and being, and whether there was a difference. We were kind of having a look at it. And so, what of it all? What purpose does knowing anything about it even serve? For me, it kind of ended with thinking that having might be pointing kind of towards the heart of what we want to get to, the feeling of having and being with emphasis on being. And part of what caused this dawning upon my mind was when you had spoke about specifically said something to the effect of wanting carries a certain weight with it. So if we're going to just get right into it, do you remember saying that and like kind of the context surrounding it? And if you don't mind, could you expand on what you meant?
Okay.
I may
Yeah.
be saying it different, but
So when we were talking last, you know, I guess I want to start out by saying that anybody who listens to this should realize that we're stumbling through this,
mm-hmm.
and we're just sharing our considerations as we try to live, acknowledging the little things that tug at our heart.
Right.
And I'm so super excited to be doing this with you, Lori. Thank you again. I can't say that enough.
Me too.
When we spoke a week ago, what I had said is that it's humorous to consider that having and maintaining presents a very similar challenge to not having and or being in a state of want. Um, I think that that's just that's the reality of relativity.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I kind of considered that over the last week or several days, um, I was thinking about like wanting, and and I looked at my own life and I think, wow, it feels like I'm always wanting something.
True. For all of us,
Um,
I think.
there's a few things that I feel I've pulled together out of 47 years, and that is, I wanted to be in charge of my time.
Right.
That's my currency is time, and what I do with that time, well, that's a different one because I want to do things that are purposeful. I want to do things that are meaningful, and I want to do things that are memorable. And so I started thinking before, just a few minutes before you guys logged in, about one and that weight of wanting. Um, I think that one of the reasons we want so much is we're enamored by identity, and I think sometimes we struggle with identity. And so when we want things, we generally want things that may be in possession by people that we admire.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
then I thought to myself, you know who I admire? I admire that little kid who's on the playground and he is absolutely celebrating exactly what he wants. He wants to make it to home base. He wants to tag somebody else out. He wants to be king of the hill. He wants, and he has, but he wants it so bad that it's challenging to rip himself from the playground for the very necessary bathroom break. And I think we can all relate to that
Yes.
because that is the epitome. We're going to spend the rest of our life, the rest of our wanting careers, just trying to have exactly what that child on the playground has.
Right.
I can't speak intelligently for everybody, but I know for me, I envy that little guy. I want to emulate that little guy, that little girl, in having exactly what they want. They in because of their limited exposure to all of the things in life. I mean, they have it. They recognize it's in their possession, and all they want to do is keep it. I don't even want. They don't even want to take a break for the potty because it may not be there when they get back. They literally have exactly what they want.
Right.
So I hope that kind of reflects on what we were talking about last week and will kind of move us forward into this week.
I like what you're saying because I'm thinking of the playground. A few things about it. First of all, it's community property. So does he have it? He has it in that moment. And by wanting it, that speaks to appreciating it and being satisfied with what's before him and making good use of it. You know, the more rigorous he's playing, the more he gains from that versus wanting what's not there. When you become an adult, you're more like at work thinking of home, at home thinking of work starts to arise. You don't, as far as I can remember, it's less frequent that as a child you're on the playground thinking of school. Now you might be at the desk thinking of the playground. That's at least there's like some consistency there, right? Like what you keep in the forefront of your thoughts. This week when I was thinking about wanting, children came to mind in the sense that I was thinking I see them so many places happy, playing in their yards, at the playground, like you mentioned, at home. One of the places that I consistently see by my own assessment, right or wrong, my view is that at a store where there is shopping, where there are things that they may want, all of a sudden they didn't know it existed before they walked in there. And that is where I will hear a little bit more of struggle between parents and children. And it's not that, maybe they're tired, other things, but I also hear specifically they want something and there's this kind of grappling going on that I want it. I've experienced this with my own children. I want this. And quite often the way I would head it off, you can do let them know before the purpose of the store and the expectations. But if we're in the store and a child is like, I want this, so many times I'd be like, what is it? And what are you going to do with it? They don't know. And it can end right there because it's like, I don't know for sure that you can want it in the right way, which then lends itself to thinking, is there a right way to want things? Because there's a curiosity, and does it matter if we misname it? Beyond that, what changes from a healthy want that when it's satisfied, you can chalk it up to good, versus when wanting begins to become some type of interference in your life, specifically in terms of the heart. It blocks some kind of contribution you should be making that your heart would normally lead you to if you weren't distracted by your wanting. And when does the other part is, when does wanting become habitual? I want, I attain, I want. This is now a routine. The hedonistic treadmill, I think, is actually a real term for it. I may be not remembering correctly, but you get the point, right?
I do.
So for you, what do you think has changed if you would see a child, you see us, and without judgment, but just having a sober look at life, wanting, and what one has to do with the other, and what both have to do with the heart and what we're here to do in our time, and what's most important, when does wanting become interference for you or that you have witnessed?
I think I think I want to step back, if you'll allow me for just a second,
Sure,
Lori,
sure.
because one of the things that you're saying is really important, and it's odd that you're saying this because it's really aligned with what I was saying. Now, give me a 2 seconds here, and I'm going to make the connection.
Okay.
A child in the grocery store wants, and why do they want? Because they're in a discovery state.
A discovery state.
So
Okay.
so they don't have that identity yet. So they're kind of trying a bunch of different things, and everybody knows a child who wants something, they don't even recognize its function, but
Oh,
they
yeah.
want it
Right. Why?
because they're still collecting data to form an identity. So then when we get older, I think that it's maybe a little bit about identity modification. We're like, wow, that's a characteristic I really like. I would like to emulate it. I would like to include it in my presentation when I present myself, because now that's something that I want people to recognize in me and be like, oh, there goes Leroy. He's the camper, you know?
That association is where
Right.
is
But I
valuable.
think
Yeah.
that I think it changes a little bit. And before we get into the unhealthy part, I think that we do, and I mean, as sure as the months go by, our identity changes over time. There's very few people that, I always admire those people that have a goal. They set out, they attain that goal, and they're just impossibly focused.
Right. Yes.
I'm kind of all over the page. I mean,
Yeah. Me too.
if you were to ask my wife says your hobby is collecting hobbies. You know,
I'm the same, except
I,
for the water bottle. Yes.
I mean, but even that, it's like that's a personality, that's an identity, that's an appeal to excellence, if you will, and that's part of my identity.
Right.
I want heirloom quality goods in my life.
Right.
I want reliable.
Thanks for
But
being
part of,
thanks for being brave enough to be honest. But go ahead and continue down that path. I like
but
this.
part of that's because as a child, and at some point will disclose some very frightening, realities about ourselves individually and maybe even collectively. But
Right.
as a child, I was without, and I always wanted things. I always had substandard goods.
Right. Right.
So substandard. I mean, I didn't have the good boots. I had feet coverings. I didn't. So then it was like, man, and every time I make an acquisition, it's to present the 8-year-old me or the 5-year-old me or the 12-year-old me from experiencing that loss of that identity that I wasn't so fond of.
Oh my gosh, Lyra, yes. That's profound and hurtful, and I love it. But I mean,
You think that's hurtful? Wait till you hear that. No, I'm just kidding.
I want to hear what you're going to say moving on to the next part, but I get what you're saying about it's like a form, like wanting becomes like the object of what I'm wanting is something that I've identified in this instance as a security of sorts, right?
Yes.
Like if I attain this, I'm somehow more secure that I would not return to a time that I was uncomfortable or in need, which we haven't even brought up need versus want, which is its own topic, but it's also relevant to this, right?
I think that's a really good way to put it. I think that people that long to have a following on their Twitter account. Maybe there was some loneliness in the beginning. I don't know. Maybe some people are just designed that way and they're destined for that superstardom or generating content, that is interesting. But maybe some people are just do it out of, for other reasons, loneliness.
Right.
Or, they lacked adoration, or they had a relationship that was not fulfilling. And so they'll take. I'm thinking about myself. I can never speak for somebody else. But as I try to figure out my own
Yeah,
way, I think
you have
about
to reach out to your own point of
what
reference for
I'm
this.
doing, and what I do, what I want is I want barriers against the parts of my life that I am not so proud of.
Oh,
And so
yes.
when I acquire things, those are the things that I didn't have formerly. And so another thing that I was saying about wanting, or that I thought about, is that wanting, just the act of wanting. I'm not saying about the pursuit, the earning, the introduction. I'm just saying the wanting allows us to, that is the first point in which we can start our relationship with something or someone. It's like just the act of wanting puts us in a relationship.
Wow, you're right. You're
Maybe
right.
it's unhealthy, but the relationship started the minute we started wanting. And the relationship grows as we find a way to sit in the server section at Outback Steakhouse, and they served us, and the small chat began. But that's the starting point for a relationship, is the want.
Right. So
So
there's something natural there, though, right? It's not.
I'm trying to find things in myself that are not. I don't want to have this conversation be like, man, want's terrible. I remember I wanted to take my wife to dinner before I knew anything about her. And that was a good want.
To be
And I
fair,
still,
I kind of did too.
yeah, you wanted me to take her to dinner too,
Well,
didn't you?
or me, one of us should have had her in the families.
Got it.
So
Totally understand. Exceptional individual.
yeah, no, so you don't get like special credit for that. She's pretty.
Right.
She's pretty
So-
wantable.
But I do think that is a very healthy, because want, when we spoke a little bit about wanting versus being last week, we're thinking about wanting, and I feel
Boo,
we walked
boo.
away with
Right.
a little bit of an unhealthy, almost disdain for want.
Yeah, and
Oh.
you're destroying my talk notes right now, but I'm loving this. Keep on.
But want isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
I think there's some healthy. But now, is there well, let me put it this way. There's also unhealthy portions. And if I had a way, I have here in my desk the first restraining order my wife ever put on me,
What?
because I was stalking her.
Oh, stop.
No, I'm just
Stop. Oh,
I'm just kidding.
you're-
You asked for levity. So what I'm getting at is that I think that I just don't want to leave this sour, want is bad. I think that it's very important to own it and to recognize
Yes.
it, and to
yes.
have just a place you can park it, and so that wanting helps us set up goals.
I do. I love this because it's shifting the way I would approach wanting to begin with.
You're welcome.
And belated thank you. So, we done? We're done here? Okay.
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
wanting, the way I was approaching it was a little bit more where it can become unhealthy and where it can go a little sideways. But I think it does begin with understanding that relationship, because one of the things about relationships that's vital, so not beyond important, vital, between people, between human and food, water, and even with want, it is the way, and it is also, there's something about it that is its own end. So wanting is purposeful, like that we want, to me indicates that it's not unnatural. Nothing about the way we're made is in itself just, oh, we're made this way and then zap, let's put this really ugly quality. But what can happen is we can have certain qualities about ourselves that are right for the order of everything and how we belong into that. Wanting, like anything else, can become disordered. And I think it's important what you said, because this is all, now that I'm thinking of this, if you don't know the difference, it's how do you know where you're going to travel, right, in the path, and how do you know what you're responding to in life? If you don't know yourself, like, hey, wanting's okay. It's when it doesn't lead to the end that is most right for us. It's because if there is wanting, it should be for good, ultimately. And if it's not for good, then it is, I guess another name would be temptation, but you just don't want anything to get out of balance, out of line. And it's not like we can sit here gauging it constantly, watching the scale go this way and that way. But it's having a little bit of trust in the ebb and flow in the process, right? As you get there.
Yeah.
It's
take that a little further.
With the balance. Well, one of the things is just to kind of, because if we start saying, I want to not want, that can also lead to just as like devastating spiral at some point. People, like now it can be very trendy to be minimalist. I appreciate that. That would be something that I envy. I wish I could be more like that. But anything to a certain point can become habitual, or worse, just reckless. For me, you have seen me in different walks of life where I'm all about giving and then over giving, and then like reckless giving where it's not giving to something that improves something authentically for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So then, is wanting to be that useful? So it works both ways, so you can't hate wanting. You can have a look at how you respond to that innate draw, right, that you feel upon yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a super powerful thing you just said.
Well, because greed works both ways. There's saving every penny can be greed. Collecting acts of charity can become greed. It's all about intention. If and that's why you and I strongly feel about the heart. And this is what we have in common, because when we don't have heart-to-heart talks, we could easily be fighting about wanting. But it's that intention that you bring to wanting, to the conversation, to consideration, as you say. Without that right intention, it's hard to have a very clear, unbiased look at what's going on inside you and how it could be better.
Without names or anything, can I pull an episode out of your life? Yeah. You don't even know what it is, but can I pull an episode out of your life and just put it on display for a second?
Ahead. Yeah, we're here to be ugly and messy. Go ahead.
There you go.
I hope.
It helps us.
I need a safe word next time, but go ahead this time.
Pineapple.
Pineapple. Okay, go ahead. I'm already holding my head. I'm flipping through everything I've done wrong in my life.
I remember you struggled with your comfort. And your comfort through your hard work and tenacity, it wasn't enough. Like, it wasn't enough. You hit a place, a stride, and you were like, okay, now what? And this is actually a note, but I'm going to
go ahead.
Before I reflect on a note I made, I'm going to talk about this. So you said, you know what? I'm going I'm going to take on a couple of disadvantaged occupants. I'm going to house them. I'm going to employ them. I'm going to share a familial connection with them, in that meals were prepared together, vacations were taken together, time was spent,
Oh, yes.
community hobbies. And then put the brakes right there for 2 seconds, because the next thing that comes to mind when that happened is spare the rod, spoil the child. Now, when I say spare the rod, spoil the child, we all think, oh, spare the rod, spoil the kid. Great. No. Spoil like a spoiled apple.
Right.
So without governing, you just included them, but they didn't have the journey that you had. Your soulmate and you collectively created, through lots of discipline and lots of risk, created a home environment that's quite comfortable,
Right.
very comfortable, beyond comfortable to the point that, like,
Okay.
we got room for more. Let's take some more. Let's share this. And then, but these people hadn't gone through the experiences of want. They went from want to have without the want, earn, have. They did want, have.
Yes.
They arrived at the end. And then, and this is the part that's just heart crushing, you were the bad guy.
Yes.
You were the bad guy because you said enough is enough. Because now it's
not helpful,
gone
it's hurtful. It was hurting.
That's right. I spared the instruction. I spared the governing. I spared all these things so that I could bring you into this, assuming that they would just have a level of self-preservation. But what happened was the opposite. They decided, we've arrived. This is what it looks like. We don't need to save any money.
Right.
We don't need to do anything. Here we are. Ta-da! Arrived. And then it was like, that became the best laid plans, just are upset because you know what you're thinking, but you can't explain to them what you're thinking. And so,
Right.
They wanted and then they had, but there's a journey in the middle. And that's what we're talking about, is like that, you got to want. The want can be healthy, but if you want, there is a consequence to having that is very similar to the want.
That's exactly brings us back to what you were saying, because as I'm hearing this, first of all, my face is just warm hearing this, because this is something I've moved away from. I have some years separation from it, so it's not even a thought so much today. But it's good I've had that space, because when I'm thinking about it now, if I had to reflect, which now I do since you opened the box here.
You're welcome.
The thing that I would think, like, what went wrong? So today, if I look at it, what went wrong? Well, a couple things went wrong. First of all, this idea that I could somehow love people better. This is something I used to think, right? With Shay, we find out he's on the spectrum. I'll love him well. I'll love him into, and then this, Shalem being my son, for those of you listening. And then with them, this, which is totally different, not the same intimacy or responsibility, but I would love them into like a rival. And that's how it happens. The second thing is, I robbed them in the time that I allowed them to be there, like with no bills and with like these luxuries, all you save, you keep, and just start a life. But in that process, I postponed the growth that would lead to an authentic life for themselves where they could earn that and sustain it. I ended up
Mhm.
like almost tripping them up. And in that part, I am guilty. You know, there's the like morally, that's on a much deeper moral level. Did I have fault? That part, yes. The rest, I would say no. But if you really think about it, what goes wrong and how did things not turn out better? And I just thought of a third one. The third one comes back to what you were saying with relationship. Because what happened, I felt in my heart like just, you know how some people just tug at your heart, like such a tender spot for this family with small children. And I'll teach them. I was teaching them, schooling the kids, everything. And this wasn't the first time. I would go through this with several people. I'm going to help them. I'm going to help. Always think I'm going to help people. And I still hold to that. I still hold to that. But the relationship can't be transactional. And when a decision is made that, okay, so you've been helped for a year, 2 years, whatever it is, and now it's time to try this, and you become hated because the relationship was in the giving and the taking. And when you cut that, you've cut the relationship. You severed it because I misunderstood where the value was in the relationship from both sides.
So I remember that like that, I had never seen anything so
Mm-hmm. Well, and
so well intentioned go so left of center.
right.
You know, and we're talking about you, and I'm glad that you're like such a grown up. You know
Oh
that
no,
we
I'm
can.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah, I would be too. But
Sometimes being
but
a grown up just means you're able to still the outside. Go on.
right, you'll send me hate mail later.
Yeah, later.
Um,
I'll talk to you later.
the thing about this is that we sometimes we forget as we pursue our own wants, we forget the players in our wants.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So as you, whether it's moving away from a more youthful and challenging life to one of greater comfort and security, there's a level of guilt in satisfying your own want. This is you. This is very personal to you. And so you're like, oh man, I'm having a hard time dealing with this because now one of the notes that I made, let me move. Let me change this for 2 seconds.
Yeah,
If
happily,
if if,
happily.
if you know, a lot of times, me, you, people, you know, we want, and a lot of times we want material things
Right.
like this family. And so then I thought to myself, well, what if we removed money from our want list? Because right now you can ask almost anybody, you know, what would you do if you fell into $1 billion? $1 billion is, you know, that's a lifetime of security. Played well, you know, that's a lifetime of security. That's probably even generational wealth. But if the first thing you say is like, oh my God, I'm going to get a house. Okay, done. I'm going to travel the world. Okay, done. I want to do some good things. I want to help my family out. Done. There's a few friends I have. I would love to see them more comfortable. Done. I'd like to give some money to the name your cause. Done. Now what? And this is the part where identity becomes now what? What if we removed all of those things? Then what? What would you do with your time? What would be purposeful? What would be meaningful?
Right. Once
What
the basics are covered, what's
that? Now I'm not talking about basics. I'm talking about like
yeah,
life
yeah.
sustaining. But then what? You know, we always think about want because want puts us in a holding pattern where it's like, you know, we can insert the importance of our time because we're meeting those needs.
Wow.
But if those needs were met, then what would we do? What would make our time important then? Does that make any sense?
Too much sense for me.
So then we have to look at words like passions, strengths, values, desires, motivation, what motivates us when everything else is done. Because those are the things we probably should be at least including. We should consider including our passions, the things that motivate us. Um, that could be something as simple as reading.
Can we
Maybe
do
it's not reading. Maybe it's on the other end, and we want to write.
right?
Maybe it's like me. Maybe it's camping, because
Right.
you don't have to wait for all those other things to be done. I'm going to take 2 seconds here and tell you something that our dad said. Time, health, money, pick 2. Because when you're a child, you have all the time, you have all the health, but you don't have the money. And then in the middle of your life, you've got the health, you've got the money, but you don't have the time because you're making the money.
Right.
And then in your dotage, you have the time again, you've made the money, but now your health wanes. So we have to try and capture that middle piece. This is me talking to you as we figure out our. And I hope that somebody else would consider these things, because we're just working through this, and maybe contribute at some point. I would love to get
Yeah,
other
we're gonna.
people's input.
This is
But
really.
But you see where I'm saying?
good.
Like, we have to. We are making our time meaningful by identifying financial goals, relationship goals. But what about when we get the relationship? Well, clearly this is why relationships fail, or one of the reasons that they fail, because we know how to go after the relationship, but we don't know how to keep the relationship alive.
Right.
I'm talking about myself here. So
Well, yeah, because we go all in.
What's that?
Because we go all in when we're at.
That's right. We go all in.
Like, we'll go all in for attainment, the chase you say, but it's not just a chase of a person, of many things,
Right. So then what?
Yeah.
What happens when you get it? I mean, so as we sit here about being, like, we don't have to wait until we have the perfect sleeping bag and sleeping pad. We just have to have the desire to go and start going with whatever.
Wait, so
or like
I
Laura,
could
you
be
go with the inflatable furniture.
so I could be sleeping before I get the watch that tracks my sleeping.
Exactly.
Whoa. I'm going to say this.
Mind blown.
Wow, you've changed my life. In a good way. I'm joking, just to try to end on a lighter note, but I'm going to actually add a little weight to it, because I want to tell you something so we can move past this part about me, and next time I'll find something in you to pick on. But since I'm on the table, let me tell you something. I'll open up one of my recent sessions in grief therapy. And one of the things that has come to me in this time without Seth, first of all, everything about wanting changes. I'm going to try to not get too emotional, but you can imagine, right? When you see, when your greatest satisfaction is gone, every other want seems so much less, to say the least. I can't even express this feeling about it, but I trust that you know what I'm saying. But one of the things that I've had to face this year without Seth is answering this question that would be a dream at one point in my life, a dream. What would you do if you had your entire days and you could afford the freedom to go where you like and choose what you want to do? So you have the time, the freedom, and you're still young and strong and healthy enough to do it. So it's not that I don't have responsibility, but there's this opening in my life, right? You build up to plan on spending this many years with a child, and then they're not there. So it's like, and in the time before when things are accounted for, your time, your resources, and so much, you can say, oh, if I just had one more hour in the day, I'd work out. If I just had 2 more hours, like, I'd really be making the heck out of this or that. I could be so artistic, I could be this. But then what happens if it just all opens up? And Do you know that the thing that has happened with me is that identity crisis? Because
Mhm.
left with all of it, I have zero idea, is what I'm left with. I'm left with time, at least enough comfort to kind of have the freedom of choices and stuff. I don't know what to do with it. How about that? I mean, that's just at least to put into perspective that having satisfied many things, wanting can be its own entity that exists on its own, independent of necessity, right? Because
Well,
I find myself, even though I have the rest, that I'm in a place where I don't know what to want. It's a tough spot to be in, is all I'm saying. So wanting
I
runs so many directions.
I can talk about this a whole bunch because I learned a lot going through watching you go through this with Seth, and in my own way, going through a horrific disease.
Yeah.
And and I hear what you're saying, and I wrote earlier or over the weekend, wanting is the compensation for lack of possession, you know. So you're left wanting
It speaks of
because the
lack,
possession was
absolutely.
removed. And and I think that, when I leave and I go camping, and I've got only one, before Seth passed and I saw Seth, there's only a few things that are really moving that I remember in life. And it's like, wow, that was just life altering. And
Hmm.
I'm going to tell you and hold it together, try to hold it together,
I'm going
because
to, I will.
this is a celebration.
Okay.
The fact that we can remember Seth and that Seth changed our lives. Seth wanted experiences
Yes.
so much. If it was another level on a video game, he was enthralled with the discovery, just unpacking a new level, a new sight, a new sound, a new platform. I remember when Seth was receiving treatments, and I took a drive, just a day drive, and I just went down old forest roads, and I videotaped it, and I came across a little turtle crossing the road. I picked it up and videoed it, and I sent it to Seth because
Oh, I
at
didn't know.
that moment
I didn't
it
know that.
became a whole bunch more precious,
Right.
because I know without a doubt, and there was a time in which we said, okay, we're going to get RVs, whatever that means. I mean, that could mean a van, but we like to say RV. It sounds better. But we're like, oh my God, we're just going to travel. If this comes to a point where where a sentence has been written,
Right.
we're going to introduce Seth to so many things.
We're going to let them just experience unadulterated.
Montana,
Mm-hmm.
Wyoming, buffalo,
Alaska.
elk, bear, forest roads. And he used to tell me, oh, Uncle, you're going to teach me how to light a fire? Yes, I am, Seth. Yes, I am. But he just wanted so many experiences, and he knew exactly what he wanted. He just wanted more information. Maybe because he was trying to build his own identity. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
because he was trying to figure out, who am I going to be as a person? He was just willing to collect all these new experiences. And just a remarkable child, remarkable,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But as we sit here and talk about the weight of want, I think it's funny because we say WEIGHT, and how does it weigh on us?
Right.
And then we have to think about, I shouldn't say we have to at least consider the consequences of impatience.
Oh my goodness gracious. Yes. Don't I know?
Because
yes.
Because as we go back to our very first one, wanting unbridled want can amputate just being. Our ability to just be. And I'm talking about Seth. He was just like, he lived every moment. He
Right.
was that little kid that didn't want to go potty because he was in the moment at all times.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
So when I say a remarkable little child, I mean a remarkable little child. He got so much right. Or maybe we've all had it right and we've lost it. I don't know.
It's a bit of both, I think, at times. But yeah, I feel that.
So when I say that we have to consider the consequences of impatience, patience and learning to deal with patience and talking it out here, this is great for you and I.
Yes.
Patience can alleviate some of that weight of want.
Can you do me one favor here? Can you say that one more time? And I want to mark that because I think this deserves its own segment, which we can follow up with. Patience deserves. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Patience can alleviate some of the weight of want.
Mm-hmm.
Patience.
Yes, and
before that, which is I feel is extremely important, is that we should consider the consequences of impatience.
The consequences of impatience.
And I think at least in my life, making uneducated, rash decisions, they have consequences.
Yeah, and I think I may be the highest contender to rival you in the area of impatience. I think that's something that we're born with, and I think everybody is to a certain level. It's again what you do with it. Is impatient.
I'm glad you feel that way because I'm not really impatient. I just said that to make you feel better.
We're born impatient, but hopefully have found its best uses. Like for you, I like to say, I don't know if it's to soften that characteristic or if you have come into this as a man opposed to the child that I once knew. So sometimes I like to say you were impatient and something has changed enough in you that I can now call that similar characteristic zeal. We'll work it out, but let's do that on the next show. So for those of you listening, thanks for joining us. And Leroy, I really appreciate this. I appreciate hearing you. And when I am listening to you with possibly other people, I think I listen better. Creepy, but okay, I'll take it, right? Whatever it takes. Thank you.
There's something that makes it very easy to, I think, as a twin, because it's a very shared.
Yeah, it's two sides of the same
view.
mind. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to put us behind the same set of glasses.
Yeah. Well, and with time, they'll see how easily that can be disrupted too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lori.
You tried today. So until next time, you can like the podcast, and if you want to take the next step, we kind of would want you to share it, if you don't mind. Also, Strong Island. We're here on Strong Island. Hi, Bobby with Bobby. That was Bobby.
Hello.
He does a great job producing this and a lot of other podcasts. So you can like and share Strong Island Radio. Also, it's on Facebook and YouTube, Roku. It's like showing up everywhere. So are we with Bobby. Thanks for that, Bobby.
You got it.
Thank you, Bobby.
Bobby, are you going to put a list up on your station of where, like, all the places you're beginning to reach, and we are, and everybody is?
Sorry about
Excellent.
that. My mic is acting up. I have to update the whole schedule, and now we have shows that are actually going on cable and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
so let us know, and then we'll let you guys know so you can follow, because there's just a lot of stuff. I saw a Sunday like that. I could follow a recipe, more than a recipe, a live cooking show, and just a
Yeah.
lot of stuff going on that I'm a fan of personally.
yeah,
So
and we also have the Suki and Scott show, which is they were on Channel 11 Picks a few years back. They're a great team, and proud to have them on our network too. So definitely
and a lot of funny stuff. I've been hearing a lot of things going on.
good
and
stuff.
Makes me proud to be part of it.
Thank you. No, we love to have you a part of it, and your brother is a great addition. And just everybody, StrongIsland.com. So just go there. That's where everything is updated. You can click on shows, and you can see the whole schedule. We're like a week or so behind as far as updating the shows, but everything's always there.
Okay, good to hear. And I think there's also coming soon a couple surprises from Strong Island, but we will wait and let those be surprises, right, Bobby?
It's always surprises.
Yes, there's always something new popping up. Leroy, seriously, I love you, my brother, and my twin, and thank you for.
You're obligated. Thank you.
Yet no choice, but I continue to.
Choice or by force.
Yeah. So until next time, everybody, please farewell.